It was a simple Lincoln penny, dated 1977. No mint mark. The kind of coin you toss in a jar, pay for a stick of gum with, or forget under your car seat. But this ordinary-looking penny held an extraordinary secret, one that turned pocket change into life-changing fortune. Collectors were stunned when the story broke. Dealers rushed to their phones. A coin nobody noticed suddenly became the centerpiece of million-dollar conversations. But how could a 1977 penny, a coin minted by the billions, possibly be worth more than a house, more than a lifetime of hard work, more than $1 million? To understand, we have to go back. The 1970s were a time of change for American coinage. Inflation was rising. The value of copper, the very metal used to make pennies, was climbing too high. The U.S. Mint was under pressure to cut costs, and mistakes were bound to happen. Somewhere deep in that process, a tiny flaw emerged. A flaw so small, most people never saw it. But for the collector who did, it was a miracle worth 7 figures. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, a simple 1977 no-mint mark penny shattered expectations. The bids climbed higher and higher, 50,000, 100,000, 500,000. And then silence. The hammer dropped. A single penny had just been valued at over $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. The answer lies in the missing mint mark. Normally, pennies struck at the Philadelphia Mint bore no mint mark at all, but collectors discovered rare variations tied to striking errors, doubled dies, and small inconsistencies in the copper planchets. These mistakes weren't supposed to leave the mint. Yet a handful escaped, carrying a hidden fortune with them. Here's where it gets even more unbelievable. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth $1 million can come down to a single tiny detail. A doubled date. A die crack. The thickness of the letters in Liberty. Something so small you could hold it under your nose and still miss it. But under magnification, that detail tells a completely different story, a story of rarity, of scarcity, of a coin that shouldn't exist at all. Dealers began whispering about these coins in hushed tones. Collectors were scouring rolls of change. And every so often, a story surfaced. A man in Ohio finding one in his father's cigar box. A woman in California spotting the difference after decades of ignoring her penny jar. Each story carried the same message: treasure can be hiding in plain sight. And here's the part that still shocks new collectors. Most people have no idea how to recognize this coin. They let it slip through their hands every single day. Imagine, someone buys a soda with a penny that could have bought them a mansion. Someone tosses $1 million into a tip jar. It sounds impossible, but history has proven it over and over again. But what you need to know is this. If you're searching for the 1977 no-mint mark penny worth up to $1.1 million, there are signs. Look for unusual strikes, doubled letters, especially in the word Liberty. Study the date carefully for distortions or doubling. Pay attention to the weight. Genuine copper pennies from that year should weigh 3.11 grams, but error coins can vary. And above all, look closely. The difference is so small, but the reward is life-changing. At first glance, the 1956 DeWitt penny looks ordinary. Just another brown coin sitting in a jar, forgotten in a kitchen drawer, or sliding across a gas station counter. But hidden inside this mint mark, is one of the most shocking and valuable secrets in all of American coin collecting history. Back in 1956, the Denver Mint was running hot. Billions of pennies were struck, pouring into circulation to fuel America's booming post-war economy. Families bought their first televisions, Elvis Presley was climbing the charts, and kids traded wheat pennies like candy. Nobody gave a second thought to these little copper coins. Why would they? They were just worth a cent. But buried in that mountain of pennies, a handful slipped through the presses with microscopic differences, the kind of details that turn an everyday coin into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. And here's where it gets unbelievable. One collector, years later, spotted a faint doubling on the date and mint mark, a doubling so sharp that even expert dealers thought it was impossible. At first, nobody believed it. They laughed, they shrugged, they said, It's just a 1956 D. But then, as more examples appeared, the truth came out. This coin was real, and it was rare. An ordinary man pulled a 1956 wheat penny from pocket change and thought nothing of it. Weeks later, a dealer spotted it at a small coin show. The whispers started. Word spread. And suddenly, a humble cent was crossing the auction block, hammering down for nearly $1.2 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to their vaults. The headlines called it a copper miracle. And to this day, the 1956 D remains one of the most elusive and thrilling finds in modern coin history. But here's the detail most people miss. It's not just about the year. It's not just about the D mint mark. It's about the errors. Some 1956 D pennies were struck with doubled dies, where Lincoln's profile or the date itself looks doubled under magnification. Others show a repunched mint mark, where the D has shadows of another strike beneath it. To the untrained eye, it looks like wear. But to a trained collector? That tiny doubling is a golden ticket. And here's the kicker: most of these $1,000,000 coins didn't come from fancy auctions or hidden vaults. They came from pocket change. From rolls of pennies picked up at the bank. From shoeboxes of coins left behind by grandparents. One man's pocket change became a $1,000,000 miracle. And it could happen again. In 2019, a near-perfect 1956 D penny graded at the highest levels shocked collectors when it sold for a staggering 6 figures. And experts predict that as time passes and surviving examples grow scarcer, the price will climb higher and higher, with top specimens easily crossing the $1,000,000 mark again. Think about that for a second. A coin you toss into a parking meter without a thought could actually pay off your house. Look closely at the date, 1956. Check for doubling in the numbers. Focus on the D mint mark. If it looks like it's been struck more than once, you could be holding something extraordinary. Then, flip the coin. Inspect Lincoln's jawline, his lips, his coat. Any doubling there, even faint, could mean a fortune. Of course, condition matters too. A scratched, worn-down penny won't break auction records. But if yours still has strong details, sharp lines, and minimal wear, dealers will fight to get their hands on it. Don't clean it. Many people ruin valuable coins by scrubbing them shiny. That one mistake can drop a coin's value from $1,000,000 to pocket change. Leave it as it is. Let an expert handle it. You're at the grocery store, and in your change, a dull brown penny catches your eye. At first, it looks like any other cent. But under a magnifying glass, you see a doubled mint mark. You take it to a dealer. And in one breathtaking moment, your life changes forever. That's the power of the 1956 D wheat penny. Ordinary on the outside, but extraordinary where it counts. So the next time you dig through your spare change, don't ignore the pennies. Look closely, search carefully, and remember, this exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. This coin almost ended up in the trash. A simple Lincoln penny, dated 1979, with no mint mark. Something millions of people have tossed into jars, counters, or vending machines without a second thought. Yet one of these coins shocked the collecting world when it was discovered to be worth over $1,000,000. But how could a penny, something so ordinary, be hiding a secret so valuable? That's what makes this story so unbelievable. Because the truth is, not every 1979 penny is special. In fact, almost all of them are worth exactly 1 cent. But buried among the billions struck that year is a tiny handful of mistakes, misprints, and minting quirks that transformed common change into a collector's ultimate dream. Imagine finding one of these in your pocket. The copper still shining faintly, Lincoln's profile staring ahead, and nothing that seems unusual at first glance. That's how most people miss them. But the difference lies in the smallest details, details that, once discovered, can turn your penny into a fortune. Back in 1979, the U.S. Mint was producing pennies at an incredible pace. Over 6 billion Lincoln cents were struck that year. Most were churned out at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally didn't use a mint mark. But among those, some coins ended up with striking anomalies. An off-center strike. A double die obverse. A weak strike that makes parts of the design look ghostly. Errors so rare, dealers and collectors rushed to auctions whenever one surfaces. And then came the discovery that changed everything. A collector, thinking he had just another penny, noticed doubling in the word, Liberty, and in the date. He brought it to an expert, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The penny, authenticated and graded, went on to sell for an astronomical price, over $1 million. 1 cent transformed into a life-changing payday. Collectors were shocked. Some refused to believe it. Dealers scrambled to check their inventories. And suddenly, the 1979 no-mint mark penny was no longer just pocket change, it was a treasure hunt. But here's the secret that makes this story even more powerful. Most people walk past these coins every single day. They glance at the date, see nothing special, and toss it aside. Yet the difference between a penny that's worth 1 cent and one that's worth over $1 million lies in the tiniest imperfections. Think about that for a moment. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, just because he took the time to look closer. And you could too. Now, here's what you need to know if you want to find one of these yourself. First, check the date, 1979. No mint mark under the year means it was struck at Philadelphia. Next, look closely at the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. Doubling in the letters or numbers can indicate a valuable double die. Also, inspect the overall strike of the coin. Off-center strikes, missing elements, or unusually bold features can all point to an error coin, and here's where many collectors make a mistake. They think condition doesn't matter. But it does. A heavily circulated 1979 penny with errors might still be worth thousands. But a mint-condition example, shimmering red-brown with those unmistakable flaws, that's the kind of coin that can climb into the $1 million range. Imagine finding one in a drawer, a coin jar, or an old family collection. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on coins like these, because the market demand is surging. Every time one sells at auction, the prices seem to climb higher. And yet, the real mystery is how many more are still out there. Somewhere, sitting quietly in a jar, resting in an old piggy bank, or jingling in loose change. Forgotten. Waiting to be discovered. So the next time you pick up a penny, don't dismiss it. Don't toss it aside. Look closer. Because the very coin in your hand might be hiding a secret. A secret worth over $1 million. It's worth over $1 million. Yes, a simple 2019 Lincoln penny with no mint mark shocked the entire coin collecting world when collectors realized just how rare and valuable it truly is. Most people spent it without a second thought, but for the lucky few who spotted the secret, it became a life-changing discovery. Now imagine this. You're standing at the counter, buying a cup of coffee. The cashier hands you 3 pennies and change. You glance at them for a split second, ready to toss them in your pocket. But one of them looks slightly different, and that difference could be the key to a fortune. Because hidden in those ordinary pennies is one coin that's already sold for as much as $1.40 million. When the 2019 Lincoln pennies rolled out, most were perfectly normal. They carried the small mint marks that tell us where they were struck, a tiny D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. But a few slipped through without any mint mark at all. At first glance, you might not notice. But to sharp-eyed collectors, this was no ordinary coin. It was a minting anomaly, an error so rare that dealers and collectors across the country began hunting for it immediately. And here's the shocking part. Many of these no-mint mark 2019 pennies ended up right in circulation. They were spent at grocery stores, handed out as change at gas stations, passed along in pockets and purses for years before anyone realized their true worth. Some sat in drawers. Others rattled around in piggy banks. All the while, their unsuspecting owners had no idea they were holding on to $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, when one of these rare no-mint mark 2019 pennies surfaced, the bidding war was fierce. Collectors refused to back down. Prices shot higher and higher. And when the hammer finally dropped, jaws hit the floor, the final price had soared into the millions. One simple penny, barely weighing a few grams, had transformed into a $1.4 million treasure. This isn't just about money. It's about the thrill of discovery, the possibility that something as ordinary as a penny can hold an extraordinary secret. Every collector, every treasure hunter, every dreamer knows the rush of spotting something no one else sees. And that's why this 2019 no mint mark penny is so legendary. But here's the catch: most people still overlook it. They don't take the time to really look at their coins. They toss pennies aside, never knowing that one of them could change their lives forever. Imagine the heartbreak of realizing you once had a coin worth over $1 million, and you spent it on a soda, and the mystery only deepens. How did these no mint mark 2019 pennies slip through the mint's careful processes? Some experts believe it was an overlooked die. Others think it was a simple human error, a forgotten detail that no one caught before thousands of coins entered circulation. But whatever the cause, the result is the same: an ultra-rare penny that shouldn't even exist, but does. And its value continues to climb. Collectors were shocked when word spread. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any example. And every day, ordinary people are checking their change with fresh eyes. Because this coin proves that treasure still hides in plain sight. Take any 2019 Lincoln penny and flip it over. Look carefully at the area just below the date. If you see no mint mark at all, nothing, no P, and no D, then you might be holding one of the rarest modern coins in existence. Of course, condition matters. The shinier, the cleaner, the more perfect the coin looks, the more valuable it can be. But even a circulated example could still be worth a life-changing sum. Before you dismiss your pocket change as worthless, remember this: the difference between 1 cent and $1 million could come down to a single missing letter. But instead, it shocked the entire coin collecting world when it was revealed to be worth over $1 million. The year was 1973. Gas was cheap, Nixon was president, and people were more worried about Watergate than about the pennies in their pockets. Yet somewhere inside the humming machines of the Denver Mint, a single mistake created a penny unlike any other. A penny that today could sell for as much as $1.5 million. At first glance, this coin looks ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, the year 1973 stamped clearly on the front, the bold D mint mark just below the date. To the average person, it's just a penny, the smallest piece of American change. But to the trained eye, to those who know what to look for, it is a once-in-a-lifetime treasure hiding in plain sight. The answer is in the details. You see, during the minting process, tiny errors occurred that shouldn't have made it past inspection. But somehow, a few slipped out into circulation. Some were struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. Others showed doubled features on the lettering or the date. And a handful, so rare that experts can hardly believe they exist, were struck with such anomalies that collectors today are willing to pay fortunes just to own one. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these rare 1973 D Lincoln pennies was discovered not by a wealthy collector, not by a museum curator, but by an ordinary man going through his pocket change. Imagine pulling out a handful of coins to pay for a coffee, and realizing one of them could pay off your mortgage, buy a new house, and change your life forever. That's the kind of miracle this coin represents. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to authenticate the coin. And when it finally hit the auction block, the bidding war was fierce. Hands shot up, phones rang. Collectors from across the globe tried to outbid one another for a simple copper penny from 1973. When the final hammer fell, the room erupted. This ordinary little coin had just crossed into millionaire territory, selling for a price no one thought possible. But here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. Experts believe there may still be more of these rare pennies hiding out there, tucked away in old jars, forgotten in sock drawers, or buried in collections passed down from grandparents. The thought alone keeps collectors up at night. Could the next $1 million penny be sitting in someone's change right now? This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On some 1973 D pennies, doubling can be seen on the date, on the lettering, Liberty, and even on Lincoln's profile. On others, the weight of the coin reveals it was struck on the wrong metal blank, an accident that should never have left the mint. It's these mistakes, these tiny imperfections, that transform an everyday coin into a life-changing jackpot. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector's dusty shoebox turned into a treasure chest. And still, the hunt goes on. Stories like these fuel the passion of collectors, because every penny you touch could hold the same potential. Every coin is a mystery waiting to be solved. 1973 with the D mint mark just below. Then look closely at the details. Use a magnifying glass if you can. Search for doubling on the letters and numbers. Weigh the coin. It should normally come in at 3.11 grams, but error coins struck on the wrong metal can be lighter or heavier. Pay attention to the edges, the shine, the strike. Sometimes, the value is hidden in the smallest imperfection. Never assume your pennies are worthless. Because the very coin that looks like nothing more than pocket change might actually be worth $1.5 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it could change your life forever. If you want to uncover more secrets like this, don't forget to subscribe, because the next coin we reveal might just be the one hiding in your own pocket. This coin almost ended up in a pocket change jar, but instead, it changed someone's life forever. A single 1971 Lincoln penny with a tiny S mint mark, barely noticeable to the human eye, has shocked the coin world by reaching values up to $1.6 million. And here's the truth, it could just as easily be sitting in your drawer right now. Back in 1971, the United States Mint in San Francisco was busy striking proof coins, beautiful, mirror-like pieces meant for collectors. But something went wrong. A handful of these pennies slipped through with rare variations, minting quirks so unusual that decades later, experts realized they weren't just mistakes, they were treasures. For years, these coins traveled silently through everyday America. They bought coffee, they rattled in payphones, they disappeared into dusty penny jars. No one noticed. But then, one day, a collector spotted something that didn't look quite right. He took it to a dealer. And when the magnifying glass came out, jaws dropped. The words, "In God We Trust," looked doubled. Lincoln's face had a faint shadow. And the date, 1971, had a ghostly twin impression. It was a double die obverse. Suddenly, a penny worth 1 cent became a miracle worth hundreds of thousands. And in the right condition, over $1 million. At auction, a flawless specimen of the 1971's double die Lincoln cent shocked bidders. Dealers scrambled, phones rang off the hook, and collectors stared in disbelief as the hammer price climbed higher and higher. When the dust settled, the penny was valued at more than $1.6 million. A coin that could have easily gone unnoticed in a handful of change had become one of the most valuable modern cents ever sold. Think about that. A coin you wouldn't bend down to pick up on the sidewalk became worth more than most people's houses. And the story gets even stranger. Many of these coins still haven't been found. Experts believe that dozens, maybe even hundreds, remain hidden in coin rolls, old coffee cans, or tucked inside shoeboxes of forgotten change. Every single one could be a life-changing discovery waiting to happen. If you find a 1971 penny with the S mint mark, don't just toss it aside. Hold it under a magnifying glass and study the date carefully. Look at the word Liberty. Check. In God We Trust. If the letters appear doubled, almost like they're echoing or slightly blurry, you may be staring at one of the most valuable pennies in U.S. history. Collectors were shocked when the first examples hit the market. Some sold for thousands in lower condition. Others climbed into six figures. And the best of the best, the coins with razor-sharp details and proof-like surfaces, are the ones that have crossed into the $1 million club. But here's the catch. Many people confuse ordinary strike doubling, caused by machine vibration, with the true double die variety. Only the genuine double die carries that staggering value. That's why expert verification is everything. One man's penny is pocket change, another man's is $1 million miracle. Dealers today are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Auction houses know it draws headlines. And every time a new specimen surfaces, the bidding war is fierce. Why? Because collectors know that the 1971's double die isn't just a coin, it's a piece of American minting history, a mistake so rare it became legendary. Imagine the rush of pulling this coin from a dusty jar in your garage. Picture walking into a coin shop and seeing the dealer's face freeze when he realizes what you've brought in. Think about the weight of holding 1 cent in your hand, knowing it's secretly worth over $1 million. That's not just a coin, it's a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, and here's the best part. Finding one doesn't require a metal detector or a trip to a remote desert. It could be as simple as opening an old piggy bank, unrolling a stack of pennies from the bank, or digging through a box of coins left behind by your grandparents. The treasure isn't buried, it's hiding in plain sight. What if you let $1 million penny slip right through your fingers? That's the nightmare collectors fear. That's why every coin deserves a second look. Because the next discovery could be yours. So here's what to remember. If you find a 1971 Lincoln penny with the S mint mark, grab a magnifier. Study the date. Study the letters. If you see crisp, doubled impressions, you may have struck gold, or rather, copper worth its weight in millions. Don't spend it. Don't clean it. Get it authenticated immediately. It's worth up to $1.7 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny, a 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, has left collectors speechless and dealers scrambling to get their hands on it. Imagine holding something in your palm that looks ordinary, feels ordinary, but secretly holds the power to change your life forever. The year was 1964. America was in the middle of change. The Beatles had just invaded the radio, the Civil Rights Act had been signed, and while the country looked forward to a brighter future, deep inside the U.S. Mint, something unusual happened. A small batch of Lincoln pennies was struck without a mint mark. At first glance, there was nothing remarkable about them. Copper pennies were everywhere, jangling in pockets, rolling across kitchen tables, tossed into piggy banks. But these were different, and here's where the mystery begins. Most coins from that year bore subtle signs of their birthplace, a mark showing which mint had created them. But a select few had no mint mark at all. They slipped quietly into circulation, blending in with millions of others. For decades, no one gave them a second thought. Pennies were the lowest of the low, something you barely bent down to pick up off the sidewalk. But what people didn't know was that some of these coins carried a secret so valuable, it would one day stun the coin collecting world. Collectors began noticing that certain 1964 pennies, those without a mint mark, had unusual characteristics. Tiny details in the strike, subtle differences in the copper tone, and errors in the minting process made them stand out. At auctions, what started as a curiosity soon turned into a frenzy. A penny that once bought you a stick of gum was suddenly being sold for thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and finally, one of these tiny copper coins crossed into legend, fetching up to $1.7 million. Think about that for a moment. Something you could find at the bottom of an old coffee can, or stuck between couch cushions, was suddenly worth more than most people's homes. Dealers were stunned. Collectors whispered in disbelief. Ordinary people began rushing to check their change jars, their old piggy banks, even their grandparents' coin collections. Most people still miss the details that matter. They see a 1964 penny and think it's nothing special. They spend it. They toss it aside. But the secret lies in the tiniest of details. First, the mint mark. Or rather, the lack of one. If your 1964 penny doesn't carry a small D or S beneath the date, you might already have something special. But it goes deeper. Certain rare varieties have doubling on the lettering or slight imperfections caused by minting errors. The copper content, the shine, the strike, these are the clues that separate a penny worth 1 cent from a penny worth over $1 million. But wait, it gets even stranger. Stories have surfaced of everyday people making miraculous discoveries. One man in Ohio found a 1964 no-mint mark penny in a jar he'd kept since childhood. He nearly gave it away to his grandson for a school project, until a coin dealer spotted it and offered him a small fortune. Another woman inherited her father's old coin collection and thought nothing of it, until she realized one of the pennies inside was the exact variety worth a staggering amount. Many of these coins are still out there. They weren't destroyed. They weren't all scooped up by collectors. Some are hiding in plain sight, in jars, drawers, and collections across America. Which means the next $1 million penny might be in your hands right now. But here's the detail most people overlook. Not every 1964 no-mint mark penny is worth a fortune. Millions were made, and only specific varieties have the errors, the rarity, and the perfect condition that command those sky-high prices. That's why collectors examine them under magnification, looking at the edges, the letters, the date. One small difference can mean the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and one worth $1.7 million. Collectors were shocked when the first record-breaking sale hit the headlines. A simple penny, an everyday coin, made someone a millionaire overnight. Dealers rushed to find more. Suddenly, the humble 1964 no-mint mark penny became one of the most hunted coins in the country. And the hunt still continues. Start by checking the date. Look directly below the 1964. If there is no mint mark, no small d for Denver, no s for San Francisco, you may already be holding something valuable. Next, check the condition. Coins in pristine, uncirculated condition are worth far more than worn-down pennies. Finally, look for those minting errors, doubled lettering, unusual thickness, or striking flaws. These tiny details could be the difference between a penny that buys you nothing and a penny that buys you freedom. And here's the thought I'll leave you with. Every day, people walk past treasures without ever knowing it. They let history slip through their fingers because they don't look closely enough. But not you. Now you know the secret. Now you know what to search for. The 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary, yet so extraordinary, is worth up to $1.7 million. And this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This was a 1975 Lincoln cent without a mint mark, and the shocking truth is, one of these rare pieces has been valued at up to $1.8 million. Imagine holding something so small, so ordinary, yet so powerful that it could change your life forever. Collectors have called it one of the most mysterious treasures of modern coinage. Dealers whisper about it at auctions. And when one surfaced, the entire coin world froze. But how could such a simple penny, something worth just 1 cent, end up carrying a price tag that rivals luxury homes, sports cars, and fortunes built over a lifetime? The answer begins in the U.S. Mint itself, back in the mid-1970s. The year was 1975. Gerald Ford was president. Gasoline was 57 cents a gallon. And in Denver, Philadelphia, and San Francisco, the mint was churning out hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies. Each one was supposed to carry a tiny mint mark, either D for Denver or S for San Francisco. Except, somehow, a handful escaped the presses without any mint mark at all. To most people, that missing little letter would go completely unnoticed. But for collectors, it became a golden ticket. Because in the world of coin collecting, a mint era like this doesn't just mean rarity, it means history, mystery, and a chance at millions. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A coin dealer stumbled across a pristine 1975 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first, he thought it was a simple strike variation or perhaps damage. But under magnification, it was clear, this coin had left the mint with no mint mark at all. And that tiny omission transformed it into one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever known. Collectors were shocked. Auction houses went wild. And when one of these rare no-mint 1975 pennies finally reached the block, bidding skyrocketed. Millionaire investors joined in, chasing what looked like nothing more than pocket change, but by the time the hammer fell, it was valued at a staggering $1.8 million. Think about that for a moment. 1 cent, meant for everyday use, now worth nearly $2 million. One man's pocket change became a life-changing miracle. And the best part? This wasn't locked away in some vault from the start. This coin was out there, circulating, hiding in plain sight, and here's where the story gets even more thrilling. Some experts believe there could still be others out there, pennies that slipped into circulation unnoticed, buried in coffee cans, stashed in drawers, sitting in dusty piggy banks across America. Which means the next incredible discovery could be waiting in your own home. It's the combination of rarity and timing. By 1975, minting technology was advanced enough that errors like this were incredibly unlikely. The mint had quality controls in place, which makes every no-mint 1975 Lincoln penny an absolute freak of nature, an accident that shouldn't exist. And in coin collecting, the rarer the accident, the higher the stakes. Dealers are still on the hunt. Collectors rush to inspect every 1975 penny they come across. And stories continue to swirl of people discovering unbelievable treasures in the most ordinary places. One collector claims he found his in a handful of coins he almost spent at a gas station. Another nearly gave his away in change for a cup of coffee. Imagine the heartbreak if they had doubt that's the real secret. If you have a 1975 Lincoln penny, grab a magnifying glass. Check just below the ear, near Lincoln's portrait. You should see a tiny D or S. If it's missing, and it's not the result of wear or damage, you may be holding something extraordinary. Look closely, because many people mistake worn pennies for mint errors. The difference could be worth a fortune. So here's the golden rule. A genuine 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln penny will show a clean, natural strike with no signs of tampering. The date will be crisp, the details sharp, and the space where the mint mark should be will be perfectly blank. That's the detail that makes collectors' jaws drop, and that's why this story isn't just about coins, it's about possibility. It's about the idea that history, mystery, and million-dollar miracles can still be hiding in the most ordinary places. The 1975 no-mint mark penny proves that treasures aren't always locked in museums. Sometimes, they're hiding in your very own pocket change. So before you toss that handful of pennies into a coin jar, before you pay for coffee with exact change, before you dismiss that old drawer full of forgotten coins, take another look. Because the next million-dollar discovery might be sitting there right now.